Italy, late 1990s, in a quiet, unassuming town. A young woman known only as Veronica was living an ordinary life. She was bright, social, and full of aspirations for her future. But that ordinary life was about to be torn apart by an ordeal that would push the boundaries of medicine, faith, and human understanding. This is the documented account of her terrifying journey. It began subtly, almost imperceptibly. Veronica started experiencing debilitating headaches and sudden, overwhelming fatigue. Simple tasks became monumental efforts. Her once vibrant personality faded, replaced by persistent melancholy and social withdrawal. Concerned, her family sought medical help, embarking on a long and frustrating journey through Italy's healthcare system. Doctors ran countless tests, blood work. Mr. Eastwick's every result came back normal. There was no tumor, no infection, no neurological disorder they could identify. As months turned into a year, her condition worsened. The initial symptoms were now joined by severe anxiety and paranoia. She spoke of feeling a dark presence, a constant, oppressive weight on her soul. This led to a psychiatric evaluation. The diagnosis was severe depression with psychotic features. Veronica was admitted to a psychiatric hospital for observation and treatment. She was prescribed a cocktail of antipsychotics and antidepressants, but instead of improving, her state deteriorated dramatically. Inside the sterile, controlled environment of the hospital, things took a chilling turn. Nurses reported bizarre occurrences from her room. Objects would move on their own. The temperature would plummet without explanation. Veronica began speaking in languages she had never learned, her voice shifting into a deep, guttural tone that was not her own. She would recount historical details and personal secrets of the staff, with unnerving accuracy, things she had no possible way of knowing. One night, 2 nurses rushed to her room after hearing violent thrashing. They found Veronica in a state of extreme agitation. Her body was contorting into unnatural positions, her joints seeming to bend in impossible ways. She screamed in a chorus of different voices. One moment a man's angry roar, the next a woman's taunting whisper. The medical staff was baffled and, frankly, terrified. The medications weren't working. They were seemingly making the phenomena more intense. This was beyond anything they had seen in their medical textbooks. Desperate and feeling they had exhausted all conventional options, Veronica's devoutly Catholic family made a controversial decision. They reached out to the local diocese for help. After reviewing the extensive medical records and the first-hand accounts from hospital staff, a senior priest, an experienced exorcist, agreed to evaluate the case. He was skeptical, as the church is exceedingly cautious in these matters, but what he witnessed convinced him that Veronica was not suffering from a purely psychological ailment. A series of formal exorcism rites were authorized. Under one strict condition, a medical team had to be present to monitor Veronica's vital signs and ensure her physical safety at all times. The sessions took place in a stark, dimly lit room, the air thick with tension. Present were the priest, his assistants, Veronica's family, a physician, and a psychiatrist. The only light came from flickering candles, casting long, dancing shadows on the walls. The moment the priest began reciting the Latin prayers of the rite of exorcism, the room erupted into chaos. Veronica's body arched violently, her eyes rolling back in her head. A torrent of blasphemies and threats poured from her lips in a voice that was deep and resonant, filled with an ancient hatred. She seemed to possess inhuman strength, requiring several people to hold her down. She would spit out obscure theological arguments in perfect Aramaic and ancient Greek, languages the priest himself barely knew. The psychiatrist present documented everything, noting that Veronica's heart rate and blood pressure would spike to dangerous levels, yet she showed no signs of physical exhaustion. She would react with violent convulsions, specifically at the mention of sacred names or the touch of holy water, yet remained calm during medical examinations. It was a terrifying intersection of events, where scientific observation met what seemed to be a supernatural war for a young woman's soul. The exorcism was not a single event but a grueling, prolonged battle that spanned several weeks. Each session left Veronica physically drained and emotionally shattered, with little memory of what had transpired. The entity, or entities, speaking through her claimed to be legions, ancient and powerful. They mocked the priest, taunted the family, and sneered at the doctor's scientific instruments. The psychological toll on everyone involved was immense. They were witnessing a direct confrontation with something that defied rational explanation. Then, during one particularly intense session, there was a breakthrough. As the priest commanded the entity to reveal its name, A moment of clarity flickered in Veronica's eyes. For a split second, her own voice broke through the cacophony, weakly crying for help. It was the sign the priest had been waiting for, a sign that Veronica's own will was still fighting. He pressed on, his prayers growing more forceful, his faith an unwavering shield against the onslaught of evil. The final session was the most violent of all. The room shook, the candles extinguished, and a terrifying, inhuman scream echoed through the building, a sound that witnesses would say they could never forget. And then, silence, a profound, heavy silence. Veronica's body went limp. The doctor rushed to her side, checking her vitals. She was breathing, her heartbeat steady. After a few moments, her eyes slowly opened. They were her own eyes, clear and calm for the first time in years. She looked at her mother and whispered a single word, "Mama." In the months that followed, Veronica made a remarkable recovery. She had no memory of the exorcisms, only a fragmented, nightmarish recollection of a long illness. She slowly regained her physical strength and her psychological balance. She returned to her life, a life she had almost lost. The doctors who followed her case officially closed her file, listing her recovery as a spontaneous remission of a severe, unclassifiable psychotic disorder. But for those who were in that room, the explanation was not so simple. They had witnessed something that science could not measure or explain. Was it a complex, yet unknown manifestation of the human psyche under extreme stress? Or was it a genuine battle against a malevolent, supernatural force? The case of Veronica remains an unsettling mystery, a stark reminder that there are phenomena that exist in the shadows between our understanding of the mind and the spiritual unknown. It forces us to ask, where does science end, and where does faith begin? The answer, perhaps, is a line we are not meant to see clearly. Thank you for watching. If you found this story compelling, please consider subscribing for more deep dives into the unexplained.